The phone in her room rang for about the 5th time for the hour. She knew who it would be even before she'd answered it. "Hi, Rachel, it's me again," came the voice on the other end of the phone. It was Tamara, her best friend from school. "I just had to ring you straight away and tell you that Christy rang and told me that Craig likes me. He wants to get my phone number. I know I already told you that earlier, but he's just rang her and he wants to ring me today. Oh my God, I'm so excited. What am I going to do?" "Well, I'll start by getting off the phone to me, so that if he rings you, he can actually talk to you," Rachel replied with a giggle. "Oh, Rachel, you're so right. Bye. I'll ring you later and I'll let you know what he says. Bye." She was gone, and Rachel was left with the sound of the dial tone in her ear. This was nothing out of the ordinary for Tamara. They'd spent all day at school together, only to spend the rest of the afternoon at home, engaged in intermittent phone calls about things that had happened that day, or other stuff that was so important it just couldn't wait 13 more hours until they saw each other at school again. Rachel sometimes wondered at the need for these phone calls, but she was patient with her friend. She even tried to actually get a word in edgeways now and again. Most times, though, she would start to become distracted. While scribbling meaningless shapes on a notepad, she would drift off into a daydream, only to be ripped back into reality by Tamara screaming her name at her. "Rachel! Rachel! You're listening to me? Are you still there? You're not off in one of your little trances, are you? Rachel!" The little trances she referred to was something that Rachel was well known for. When she was younger, her parents had taken her to a myriad of doctors. They'd even suspected autism after having some unsettling experiences with her. Like the time at her 4th birthday party. She was waiting for her family and friends to finish singing happy birthday so that she could blow out the candles. She stared intently at the candles, the hot, bright flames flickering from her breathing. She became absorbed by the colours in the flames. The way the wax welled up at the top, just below the wick. It would melt and fill the little cavity at the base of the wick until, unable to withstand the heat, the wax would cascade down the rippled side, continuing until it had cooled sufficiently to hold its journey. "Rachel? Rachel!" The murmur of voices in the distance. "Rachel!" Someone was shaking her. "Rachel!" She looked up and around, only to see panicked faces that finally changed to relief as she answered, "Yes?" The partygoers had stopped singing, done hip hip hooray, and a further 5 minutes had passed with the little girl gazing at the candles without response, staring, blank, without emotion. They'd even removed the cake from the table, but she just continued to watch the space where it had been, still in her mind seeing the wax as it trickled down the rippled sides of the pink candles. There were many other occasions similar to this, like when she had looked up to watch a plane passing overhead while on her way to school. The red tip of its tail, the sun glinting off its windows, the blur of the propellers as they spun. Someone bumped into her on the footpath as she stood, looking skywards. "Sorry," said the old man with the cane. "No, I'm sorry," she replied, and embarrassed she hurried on her way. The playground was empty. Strange, she thought. Usually when she got to school, it was bustling and noisy, like everyone was trying to be louder than the person next to them. She looked at her watch. 10:30 a.m. She'd been watching them playing for 2 whole hours. The tests that the doctors performed were unable to find any reason for her attacks, as her mother had put them. They ruled out autism because, for the most part, she was normal. There seemed to be no trigger for her attacks, which Rachel had rather referred to as daydreams. So they concluded that she was simply the victim of some obscure form of self-hypnosis. They were sure that, as she grew, her brain would be able to regulate its handling in the intake of stimulus. One specialist had put it. Everyone was hopeful that this would be the case. As she grew, the daydream seemed to change. No longer would her eyes and mind just observe. Although she seemed to be having the daydreams less frequently, they had changed from watching something occur and were headed more along the lines of seeing something play out. It was like watching a DVD. You could be watching something as it happened, as it was about to happen, or even what the results of the occurrence would be. Every detail was correct. When the scene that she had pictured did finally occur, she could observe the incidents with such absolute knowledge of its outcome. No such thing as déjà vu. So sure was she of the profound reality of her visions, she began to worry that maybe the future was playing out in accordance with her thoughts. Like as if, somehow, she was able to create the future. She realized, though, this was unlikely, as she had no control over her visions. The things she saw happen were quite often not things that she fully understood. Therefore, they must be premonitions of the future itself. She didn't really enjoy the visions when she witnessed the future. Rather than to further upset her parents, she kept the revelation of her change in her daydreams to herself. She didn't even disclose the fact that she was having them unless it happened in company and was painfully obvious. This was happening less often, so maybe the doctor was partially right. At least she might be able to control the circumstances when these daydreams might come on her, if they weren't going to subside altogether.